Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover, your home for ice fishing news, tips, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Chris Larson.
Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. People get into wheelhouse fishing to spend more time with their family and friends, and part of that group is our four-legged friends. Dogs have been part of hunting and fishing culture for thousands of years, and honestly, it's just more fun to fish with dogs, but not always safe. Joining us today is one of the top dog trainers in the country, Josh Miller from Riverstone Kennels in New Richmond, Wisconsin, joins the show. Josh, thanks for stopping by.
You bet, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Josh, your focus is hunting dogs. We're talking ice fishing today, but what we're really talking about is traveling with dogs. What are some of the concepts that you teach that can be carried over and utilized by ice anglers who want to take their dogs ice fishing?
Right. Well, so first you mentioned hunting dogs, and really the way that we look at the majority of hunting dogs, at least for our clients, is that they're really members of the family first and foremost. We really don't ever see anymore the dogs that are considered hunting tools per se, or they live in an outdoor kennel all year round and don't interact with the family. It's just not part of our culture anymore. And so as part of this, dogs are doing more, such as ice fishing, going on trips and traveling. I mean, they really are a part of the family. And so when we travel, safety is our utmost priority. And I think sometimes as a part of, we talked about the dog being a part of the family, sometimes it's hard for us as the family, the two-legged, I should say, family members. It's difficult for us to separate that the dog is a dog. It sounds silly, right? But so many of us humanize our dogs and give them very human characteristics and qualities. And sometimes we forget about that the dogs, our dogs mentally, they have different needs than we do. And so a big one that we're really big on is crate training. The dog being in a crate, or some people call it a kennel, it's a huge deal for not only travel, but overall safety as far as these dogs go. So when our dogs travel, they're always in the crate. The truth of the matter is, it is the absolute safest place for your dog to be. If your dog is out loose in the vehicle, even just laying in the back seat, if you were to get in an accident, your dog is likely going to be injured versus in a crate. We use the Lucky Duck brand crates, which are 5-star crash test rated. It's the absolute safest place for your dog to be. But then when you're also traveling to new places, such as if you're in a wheelhouse and you're bouncing around somewhere that might be unfamiliar to the dog, the crate adds that familiarity that the dog can be comfortable in no matter where they are. And so there's a lot of pieces to the crate.
Yeah, just having a place that kind of is their home, their den, their lair, I think is a big thing. And I think that's something that people need to really look into, is if you're going to take that dog up to Lake of the Woods in the wheelhouse, if it's its first year experiencing this, and I think a lot of people are going to be experiencing wheelhouse fishing for the first time this year with everything going on with coronavirus, people are kind of looking to do vacations more with just their family rather than going to Hawaii or going to Florida or what have you, to let that dog kind of get acclimated to the fish house and make sure that they understand, like, this is the new home for the weekend. And that may be something that you kind of experience with the hunting side of things, is when guys may take their dog out on a trip to South Dakota or whatever. What are some kind of things that people can do to kind of get the dog used to living in that type of area rather than the home that's used to?
Well, the first part of this, Chris, is obedience training, and this starts at home. You can't take a dog that is not obedient and is out of control and put that dog into new situations and expect that you have some kind of success. I mean, that really does start with the work at home. So obedience training is first and foremost. Then one thing that we really encourage people to do is put yourself in the dog's shoes, right? So you go up to Lake of the Woods, everything, once you get outside that house is very unfamiliar to the dog. If the dog were to, say, be disobedient and run off, much more difficult to find its way back, right? And so as you kind of put into a human situation, Chris, if I took you and dropped you off in the, middle of Scotland somewhere and said, well, where are you? Figure it out. I'm not putting you in a confident, building situation where if I were to familiarize you with, where kind of home base is, the areas around it, and kind of ease into it, it really does help that dog just settle in and kind of look at this as like, kind of a mobile home base, if you will. Because ultimately safety is, first and foremost. This is also where the use of the electronic collar, comes into play, because it kind of gives you that invisible leash that we would call it at a distance. If your dog were to get away from you, the collar can certainly be used in the wrong way, but in a lot of situations, again, it just adds that familiarity, that consistency as far as, a correction and a command base as you're in new situations.
One of the things that I'd talk to you about that I see, and it's really unfortunate during the winter, is people losing their dog. And you kind of talked about it a little bit there, but one of the positive aspects, it seems like a lot of people do find them. What are some things that people can do with their dog so that if they are to lose that dog, that they're able to at least have a good opportunity to get them back?
Yeah, I think chipping your dog is a big piece of this. So chipping is, they just put that little microchip right back between the shoulder blades. And when a new dog is brought into a vet, the vets are supposed to scan for that so that if the dog was a lost dog, they will come up in their computer system and be able to locate, who the true owner is. That's a big deal. Wearing a collar strap with phone numbers on it is a big deal. I always recommend to our clients, don't put the dog's name on that collar. So many people do, but what happens is that if especially if you have a really nice dog, a friendly dog, if they were to find their way into someone's home, and the people take them in, feed the dog, comfort the dog, and they know the dog's name, they can now interact with the dog. And when they interact with the dog, they feel more of a personal connection with the dog, which tempts people to maybe not look as hard or at all, for those potential owners if they kind of fall in love with them. So we always just recommend put the phone numbers on there. Another recommendation that people have, we don't do this, but it's not a bad recommendation, which would be put, needs meds on there just to kind of, maybe scare somebody into going, well, geez, I don't want a dog that is going to cost me a fortune in medication. But that's a big piece of it is not putting the dog's name on there. I really believe in that. I've had too many stories of, people that find dogs and bring dogs in, and, because they could communicate with them, they fall in love, and it's not right, but it's not to say that it couldn't happen. So just a way to protect yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Another thing is protection from the elements. A lot of guys like to go out on their wheelhouse, take the family out, do some ice fishing, but during the day they'll get out and do some stuff outside of the wheelhouse to do some fishing. The dog likes to go out there as well. Protection from the elements. What kind of things do you suggest there?
Yeah, that one's a little bit tougher, just because like for our hunting dogs, so our duck dogs. We would have the dogs wear vests as it gets real cold and the water gets real cold. But in this situation, the dogs are oftentimes, at least you're not anticipating the dogs to be out for, major hours or sitting out in the elements, especially if you're just going outside for, a little explore and then come back in. But I'd say anytime you're going to be outside with your dog, it's important to get the dog out in the elements so that its body naturally can kind of compensate. If you have we know a lot of our, specifically our waterfowl dogs, that the owner says it kind of gets colder outside, will maybe have an outdoor kennel that they put the dog in there to have some extra time outside during the day, kind of be in that cooler environment before it's too cold, so that their coat can kind of get thicker and prepare them more for the hunting season. Which that's not a bad idea. You think about if your dog is laying on the couch in your a nice warm house all year round, and then heaven forbid be in a bad situation in the winter up on Mille Lacs or Lake of the Woods or something like that, where that now they have to be outside for long periods of time as you try to find them. That is that dog's body is likely not prepared for that. So getting them outside as much as possible is probably a good way to help with that.
And bringing water and food along. I think keeping all that stuff stable to what they have in the house. And then probably one of the things that we see, and I'm sure you see as well, a lot of times people will go out in the Wheelhouse, they'll go to Mille Lacs, do some ice fishing, and then head into a resort for the evening for dinner, and they're leaving their dog back in the Wheelhouse. And you had mentioned bringing that crate along with you, but I think if you're not going to do that, that tends to be when dogs get in trouble, where they get into food maybe they're not supposed to, or just get into something that they're not supposed to, keeping all that type of stuff up and away from them.
Yeah, and this really is where we just highly, highly recommend having that crate, because it's just one of those deals that at some point or another, you are going to be in a situation where you are not going to be able to supervise your dog in a situation where they should be supervised. And so this just gives you the opportunity, people think of it as sending their kid to their room like they did something bad. And that's exactly the opposite of how we preach to do it, which is, we want that crate to be a safe place, a place that they enjoy, a place that they feel comfortable. And so by you putting them in there for, the hour and a half that you might go to dinner, not only is it not a punishment, but it's actually somewhere comfortable and enjoyable for the dog to be. So this is where, again, I would really utilize that crate, but anytime specifically in a fish house, there's so many extra things that you have to think about. I unfortunately don't get to do as much ice fishing as I would like to, just because most of the winter I'm down in Arkansas chasing ducks yet all the way through January. But during summer fishing, if we have the dogs in the boat, that's something. I'm always watching for no hooks left on the ground whatsoever. We've heard horror stories of hooks that smell like bait specifically. We've had like tip ups with treble hooks and stuff like that dogs they smell what to them smells like fish, and they naturally just grab at it, and now all of a sudden you have a treble hook in a dog's mouth. That is not a fun situation. So just being super cautious and just kind of looking at things from the dog's perspective, I think is important here.
Yeah, things go wrong like that. Also, really good to kind of know where the lay of the land as far as vets go. How do you go about kind of researching vets from afar? If someone was thinking about heading up to Lake of the Woods, how would they go about kind of figuring out maybe where the best choice to go if something bad were to happen?
Yeah, no, this is a great one. So every time I travel, no matter where I go, it could be a trip for a day, it could be a trip for a month. I always first, I'll research the vets in the immediate area that I'm going to be hunting. Oftentimes, of course, on Google, there's reviews and stuff like that. But then once I've identified, one or two or three in the area that I think I could get to quickly if need be, I will call them and talk to them and just let them know what I'm in the area doing. In case something were to happen, what are your hours? What's your emergency protocol? Because of course nothing ever happens during work hours. It's always weekends or nights or something like that. And then what I'll do from there is I make sure I save those in my phone under some the address, the phone number, all the contact info that I need. So if something happens, I don't have to sit there and waste that time looking all that up. I've done it already. It's in my phone. All I need to do is 2 clicks, and I can get to where I need to and talk to the people that I need to.
Yeah, really good stuff, Josh. Is there anything about traveling and ice fishing with the dog that I haven't asked you about that you think is important?
The water piece, I would like to kind of expand on that. You mentioned you having food and water is one specifically in the winter up here. Obviously Minnesota, Wisconsin, that it's one that is very easily overlooked. It is so easy for us to look in the summer and go, oh my gosh, my dog needs water because he's panting, the tongue is out, naturally he's trying to cool down. But we find that it's actually more difficult to read that in the winter. The winter is a very dry time of year, and these dogs, they can get very dehydrated. They just don't show the same symptoms that we're used to be able to identify that the dog does need to be hydrated. So sometimes when your dog is on the road or traveling, like I know I have dogs that they simply don't like to drink water when they're traveling. And so, the kind of old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but can't make him drink. Same thing here. So what we'll do is most of our dogs are very food driven. So we will actually put water in with their food so that when they're eating that meal, that they are actually, of course, hydrating themselves. And it's a way that we can make sure that we're at least getting the dog some kind of water to stay hydrated.
Excellent stuff. Josh Miller, tell us a little bit about your company, Riverstone Kennels.
Yeah, Riverstone Kennel. So we are in, like you said, New Richmond, Wisconsin, western Wisconsin, and we train gun dogs. We breed British Labs. I spend a couple trips every year overseas, and we train and breed a lot of those dogs. We train dogs from all over. We have dogs from last year we trained 35 dogs at a time. I think we had dogs at one point from like 21 different states, British Columbia, Alberta. It was just incredible with where all these dogs come from. And what's fun for me is how different all these dogs are used. So you can take a Labrador Retriever, and somebody in Minnesota, Wisconsin is going to use them differently than the guy in Utah, is going to use them differently than the guy in Texas, and so on. And so it's really fun. For me, it's really fun to make those connections. But it's what I love to do, and it's I'm fortunate enough to make a living at it.
People want to find out more about your company. How do they do that?
So you can follow us on Riverstone Kennels on Instagram or on Facebook. You can also go to our website, riverstonekennels.com, see a bunch of information that we have there. And, there's contact points on there that you can reach out and talk to us.
Awesome. Josh, thanks for joining the show. Really appreciate your insights. I think it'll be very fun for people to listen to what you had to say about keeping their dogs safe, and hopefully it'll help prevent some accidents that may occur later on as the season gets going here. I know it's May, but May is just 6 months away from November.
That's right. No, thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover. For more ice fishing content, visit our blog at catchcover.com.